Which is more important, to save lives or save the economy?
And that's such a big question, and you're so right to ask it. I feel that it sounds callous, but I think there is something around numbers here. And I think there is something around, so obviously, if you were just to say, well, I prefer to save the economy, that makes you sound like you don't care for lives.
Right.
Of course, at the moment, that I would do not, there's nothing I wouldn't do to protect my parents, So, however, I definitely feel that tearing apart the economy has the potential to result in the deaths of far more people. And just to give one example, when I was walking in Manhattan, when everybody else was isolating and everything was shut down, so I was alone still, I walked past a church, and I don't know where I was, something near 40 seconds somewhere. And on the railings of the church were all of these ribbons, these purple ribbons, hundreds of purple ribbons. And every one of those purple ribbons represented someone who had committed suicide in the last year. And they'd obviously had some kind of ceremony or service for people who had unfortunately taken their lives. And of course, at that moment in time, as the city shut down for Corona, it felt really poignant because the city was shutting down for a virus, and yet all of those purple ribbons blowing in the breeze, it gives me the shivers, were for people who had committed suicide because their life was intolerable to them under the pressures of everyday life.
Yes.
And, speaking to my Uber driver who said his wife had worked in the same restaurant on 52nd for 18 years, she'd just been let go by email.
Right.
And another lady I spoke to who worked the perfume counter in one of the big stores, she was serving a customer and she got a text on her phone telling her, go upstairs, pack your things, go home, you aren't being paid tomorrow. And
Amazing.
I think that's the reality. Job loss is not kind or careful or done softly. It's blunt and it's hard, and people still have their rent to pay and they still have their bills. And that's really, I suppose, I come more from that side of it.
Right. And so the answer to the question is what? You would rather prefer to save between lives or the economy, you say?
I would say I'd rather save the maximum number of lives, and I would say that will be in saving the economy. Saving the economy will save more lives than trying to protect, at the cost of the economy, trying to save lives of those who are vulnerable.
Because if you save lives, but the economy should fail, people are going to die anyway. So
that's
you might as well save the economy and then work on the lives.
I think that's right. And I say it partly out of conversation with my mother. She's 74. And she says, this is my mum. She says, I've had my life. I love being this age. She loves having the grandchildren. She loves everything. But she said, I've had my life. And my father always says, if you live for 70 years and 10, then you have had your time. So for him, 70 was always, growing up in his age, 70 was always a benchmark of success.
Yeah.
And so they believe, if you've had a long and happy life, you've had your time, and now they're on extra time. And so they believe, I suppose, in many ways, they don't want young families to suffer.
Yes.
There's mums and dads with young kids. They have to provide. So it's not like we're trying to say, well, we can give up the older people to look after the young. I think it's just saying that we need to have something that people are going to go back to.
Absolutely.
And I do think New York is going to be a curious place after this is over, if all of those restaurants and bars and shops go under.
That's
It's
right.
going to be a long time in recovery.